What is up, y'all? This is JT. What you're looking at right here is a rigid octane circular saw. Now this trick is really meant for table saws, not for circular saws, because it will bind up on your actual your blade guard, and so you have to be very careful. But what I want to show you is how to make your own ghetto dado stacks. Now you can do this for as many saw blades as you have, and you do have to be careful because you're offsetting the teeth just a tiny bit, and it's going to be a little bit harder to clear away the sawdust, so you got to keep this in mind. But if you cannot afford a dado stack for $60, but you have a 10-inch table saw and a ton, I've got Hercules, I've got rigid, there's 2 rigids on here, and then I've got 1 Diablo, and I just barely caught the arbor tooth, or the little square notches, just barely. The blades are all on the centering device, but the washer is a little bit wonky. I may actually have to take off the 3rd one because I think it's going to hit the blade guard. But just keep in mind, this trick is mostly for table saws. So I've got 3 blades on there, 1 thin kerf, and then 2 rigid, just normal kerfs. I'm not sure, it's just a stock rigid blade. But I wanted to demonstrate the capabilities, and if you have super wide kerfs on your blades, like cheaper blades have a super wide kerf, you can buy washers. Now these are too thick. They are 5/8 inch, so they are the perfect size in the center, but they are too thick and they keep the blades too far away, and that's where dado stacks actually have the 4-blade that clear out the middle part. But that won't work. But they are the right size. They're just too thick, as you can see, just too thick, and it keeps the blades too far away. I want to demonstrate this, so rather than having 1 blade, when the blade guard's back, it doesn't bind so much. I mean, it doesn't hit anywhere, maybe just a little bit. So just for demonstration's sake, on this saw, I'm going to take 1 blade off. Okay, so as you can see, I've got 2 blades, and they're slightly offset. You have to offset them, otherwise the teeth will hit together and cause an issue. And even with 2 blades, look at that, still catches it. Now I used to do this trick when I was doing cutouts for I don't know what joint it's called, but when I would take just a board like this and I needed to notch the board like this, so I'd flip it this way, I'd make multiple cuts, and then I'd knock it out and smooth it out. Well, what I did was I just put 2 blades on, and it sped the process up double, and it took a lot more material out. And so let me tighten this up and I'll show you. Okay, so on this particular saw, no more bind on that. With 3 blades, it was binding on the actual inside of the blade guard. Now, like I said, this trick is mostly for table saws, and yes, you can use 7 1/4 blades on a 10-inch table saw. They mostly have 5/8 arbor, so you could literally probably throw as many blades on as you can fit on the actual shaft of the motor. So, without further ado, let's go see what this does. And I have this set to go roughly halfway through this 3/4 just particle board chunk that I had left over. So let's see what happens. I don't know how I'm going to film this. Okay, so I've got my phone propped up on its little kickstand and a piece of pine underneath it. Let's see how well you can see. See if I'm even in camera. Well, sorta. Maybe we should zoom in a little. Not too much. There we go. Let's see what it does. Let me turn on the light. And as you can see, no longer do you have a thin curve cut. That's about, I would say, 1/8, maybe a little bit more. So if I had 3 blades, it would be about 3/16. And it left a fairly square top. Not perfect. And I apologize for this poor camera focus, and also I wasn't using any base. I was just kind of freehanding it, so it's kind of crooked. But it will result in decent cuts. Like, you get pretty much a flat bottom cut. So if I was to keep going just over and over and over, depending on how big it is, you can actually just keep doing this and it will work fine, and you can take all the material out. Let's see if I can do it. This would be so much easier on a table saw, but as you can see, I did go all the way through on the last couple ones, but it leaves such a shitty finish because these are not flat top blades. But if you really need that cutout, say you were putting 2 boards together, you know, like this, it will work. And yes, it is ghetto, I understand that. But I'm using it on my circular saw, so that makes it even more ghetto. If they had just the proper spacers in between the blades, it would make quite a bit of difference. As you can see, there's no sawdust stuck in here. It didn't cause any issues. These are brand new blades. Thank goodness I didn't wreck them any. But if you do a clean cut all the way through, which I wasn't, I was leaning on the shoe because it's such a thin piece. That's kind of the result you'll get. I was ramping up towards the bottom of the cuts, and that's why it did that. But if I do a perfect clean one, which I'm going to lay you over here, see if we can't get a clean one. Because it's such a skinny piece, let me use a little bit thicker piece to see if I can still even make the cut. Because this is a right blade saw. And I don't even know. There we go. So flat. Oh, terrible. But as you can see, it leaves a decently flat bottom. There towards the edge, I kind of ramp downwards. And one of the important things I didn't mention is try to use the same types of blades. Like, say if you're using rigid, use all rigid. I have 3 rigid blades, so I would use 3 rigid blades spaced out. I would probably space them out super thin, maybe less than a 1/16, just to space them apart. That way the sawdust can get out of the blade. But it will work. You can just stack them right on top of each other and it will work. And that's 2 blades, and it leaves almost enough for like an MDF drawer. Look at that. 2 blades. Boom. If I'd have had a straight edge, which I didn't, and freehand and hanging it off and it's raining on me. But yeah, I mean, look at that. You could almost fit the MDF inserts right into this slot. It's probably almost the exact right size. That's crazy. So that's just a little ghetto trick. Oops, holding you sideways, my bad. But that's just a little ghetto trick you can do. I don't recommend doing it on circular saws because, like I said, it could bind up in the blade guard and just jam up your whole saw. And this is a brand new saw, so I don't want to do that. Hey, roly-poly. Where you going? But anyways, yeah, stack up like 10 blades on your table saw and see what happens. If you can't afford a dado stack. The cheap Harbor Freight, they used to sell a cheap Harbor Freight blade that was like a gold colored, and it was actually one of the best for it. And I'll show it to you because I think I know where it is. Okay, so this is one of the cheap blades that I was speaking about. It's not even sure the brand. Just says Lifetime Carbide, Tungsten Carbide. I can't be right. Tungsten Carbide. This was like a $5 blade. Anyways, I've cut through metal, steel, mostly aluminum. I don't know if I cut through steel. Maybe nails. Nothing hurts this blade. This blade sucks, but I keep it around just for those types of cases where I need to cut through nail embedded wood. And the angles on the teeth are a little bit more flat. So if you had like a handful of these, you could probably make a decent little dado. Or even, I don't know, if you have something to clean it up with, you could do all kinds of joinery with these types of blades. No dado stack needed. As you can see, I've got a 10-inch blade on there. I have somewhere else, I've got 2 10-inch blades right there. One's a Skil that came with the saw, and another one's that same brand, that gold colored. And then I think the rest are 12-inch, and I don't have a 12-inch table saw. I don't even know if they make that. But yeah, that'll work on like this guy right here, the Skil 15 amp 10-inch table saw. I used the 10-inch blades. But yeah, I got some projects going. I actually got my bike. Oh my gosh, I rode it for the first time in like years. It felt good. But this is my saw right here. And yeah, I think it'll accept more than one blade. So if I could get some spacers, some pretty thin spacers, I would say 1/16 or less, like I said, then I could start doing that. So you might have to make multiple passes in the same area because of the teeth offset when they go back and forth. But some of the Diablo 7 1/4 blades, they actually have a center point that will knock that center out. And I don't know if mine do or not. I don't know if they are center point, because that's a relatively new thing. No, it says tracking point. So it actually has one, supposedly. That is, yep, it does, right there. So these blades might actually work too, because it's got one that goes right down the center. You can't see it because I can't focus in this mode. I'm in widescreen mode. But this this tooth right here looks exactly like this picture. So you got some that lean this way, some that lean this way, and then you got one goes right down the center. So that's cool. These would probably work really well, but they're such a thin kerf though. You'd need like 5 of them just to make probably what 3 of these could do. And I wish I could fit 3 on to show you, but I'll have to try it with my table saw and show you the actual thing in using it for stuff like that. So, thanks for watching this stupid video. For more stupid tips and tricks, come back and see me.